everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alyssa Bean. I'm a senior nutrition student here at the university, and like Miss McFarland said, that I will be discussing Deck Your Plates for the holidays. So it's a helpful guide to try to introduce more vegetables into your traditional meals. And it's also just a general kind of way to be a healthier version of you this holiday season. I know it's a little difficult sometimes to want to eat your vegetables, but hopefully this will make them more enticing and hopefully will change your perception of how you view vegetables so that maybe they'll be a centerpiece for your table instead of just a side dish. But now that we talked about that, we are going to be talking about fruits and vegetables and why they should be an important part of your diet. We're going to also talk about seasonality, so what shopping the seasons really means and why it's beneficial for a variety of reasons. We're also going to be talking about different ways that you can use a lot of these seasonal vegetables in traditional dishes or even swap them in for holiday classics. So I'll be giving some examples of some recipes for the produce that I'll be talking about today, as well as all of the links for the recipes will be linked on the wellness.ua.edu website. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about eating. So we're going to get down to brass tacks and what this information will mean in the grand scheme of things, and then just give you some helpful tips for just being mindful of what you're eating. So first off, we're going to be talking about general recommendations for fruits and vegetables. So the CDC recommends that, or the CDC reports that 1 in 10 adults meet the federal fruit and vegetable consumption recommendations. And so for fruits, that is 1.5 to 2 cups per day. So 1 small fruit, half a cup of dried fruit, 1 cup of whole fruit juice counts as 1 cup. And then for vegetables, it's recommended 2 to 3 cups. So 2 cups of uncooked leafy greens, 1 cup of uncooked vegetables, and then half a cup of cooked vegetables. So why do we actually need vegetables? Why are they so important? So one of the main things is that it prevents chronic illness. 7 out of 10 of the chronic diseases that impact Americans are preventable by eating a diet mainly focused on fruits and vegetables. So ultimately, eating more can help lower the risk of cardiovascular diseases. It can help aid in weight loss to help minimize the risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity. And it can also prevent certain cancers, through which many fruit and vegetables have high antioxidant properties. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But ultimately, more is more when it comes to fruits and vegetables. So we're going to be trying to increase our consumption this season. So next we're going to be talking about how to find them. So shop the seasons. So shopping seasonally is ultimately the cheapest option. There's always an abundance of seasonal vegetables during their allotted time. So obviously there are some things that are more catered towards the spring or the summer, but today we're going to be talking about fall specific fruits and vegetables. So produce is in its peak ripeness during its seasonal time. So it means that it's going to be the most flavorful as well as the most nutritious when it is picked at its best time. So best option for finding seasonal produce is going to be local farms. So a lot of local farmers markets will sell produce. So some examples would be P&P Produce, which is up in Northport, which is open most days. And then another example would be the Riverwalk Farmers Market, which is open mostly on weekends. And they always have a variety of seasonal produce options. And some benefits of shopping locally, it helps boost the local economy by funneling money into your community. It can help outreach programs. It can help with lower income communities by giving them extra resources to seasonal produce options. So putting more money into it gives back to the community. It also helps just environmentally, because the produce doesn't necessarily have to travel as far as something that you would be getting, like bananas are prevalent in Mexico. So a lot of times they have to fly over or drive over, which ultimately increases the carbon footprint. So shop locally. We're also in a very fortunate position in the state that we live in, just because this has one of the most diverse growing opportunities in the country. So we're just going to be talking about all of the seasonal produce that you can find right now in Alabama and ways to make them delicious and make you actually want to eat them. So in the fall and winter time, some vegetables that you're going to find, fruits and vegetables that you're going to find are going to be root vegetables, greens, gourds, fruits, and herbs. So we're now going to get into kind of what all of those mean, and then some vegetables and some recipes to go along with that. So first off, we're going to start talking about starchy vegetables. So starchy vegetables are determined by their molecular makeup. So they have a higher content of glucose-containing molecules. So starchy vegetables will equate to 15 grams of carbohydrates, or for anyone who might be diabetic, it would be one carb choice on a carb control diet, and it will provide about 80 calories per serving, as well as 2 grams of protein and 1 gram of fat. So some starchy vegetables would include potatoes, corn, beans, parsnips, carrots, and the CDC recommends that women have about 5 cups of starchy vegetables per week, and then men about 6 cups of starchy vegetables per week. So a main source of starchy vegetables would be root vegetables. So why are they so nutritious? So most vegetables will grow above the ground, as opposed to root vegetables, which grow under the ground. And what happens is that when they're in the soil, they soak up all of the nutrients that surround it. So nitrogen, any potassium that would be in the soil that's really helpful for growing, water, and it just essentially makes them a giant ball of vitamins and minerals. So first we're going to start off by talking about the 2 different types of root vegetables. So the first one would be fleshy. And so the root itself is the plant. So it just makes it the ovary of the actual plant itself, which is the fruitful part. So some examples would be parsnips, which would be that first picture up there, carrots, which would be the middle, and then rutabagas would be that last picture. And as you can see here, it's just a singular fruit that grows with that specific plant. So carrots are very high in vitamin A, which is a natural antioxidant, and 1 cup of parsnips has 25% of your daily vitamin C levels. So if you don't want to eat a fruit, eat a parsnip for some vitamin C. Next, we're going to be going into the other type of root vegetable, which would be tubers, which would just be a system of bulbs that support the growth of the plant. And some examples would be some potatoes or sweet potatoes, yams, and as you can see in that picture, the different type of growing system between the 2 root vegetables. So as you can see on that very top photo, those are actually potatoes. So you can get a lot of these vegetables in various colors. So adding more color to your diet is beneficial, just because when something has a different pigment like that than a traditional russet potato, which would be brown on the outside, it means that it has a specific correlation to an antioxidant. So orange would typically be beta carotene, which is another powerful antioxidant, which is high in sweet potatoes. And most fruits and vegetables vary in color, but they don't vary in flavor. So adding something like a purple potato wouldn't change any of the flavor that you would see, but it would add some extra nutrients into your diet. And then a fun fact about potatoes is that they actually have more potassium than bananas. So a typical small banana would have about 425 milligrams of potassium versus a potato that has 520. So again, alternate solutions to some things that you would find that would still get you the exact amount of nutrients or even more. Next, we're going to get into the fun stuff. So some fleshy root vegetable recipes would be some roasted rainbow carrots at the top. So again, talking about that, adding alternative colors to things, same exact flavor, but more colorful, more vibrant, more enticing to kids and adults alike. Next, in the middle, we have parsnip mashed potatoes. So adding an extra vegetable into a dish that you can sneak by a lot of people. Parsnips are one of those vegetables that doesn't quite have a flavor, so they're very easily snuck into other dishes. So potatoes, you can put it into another stuffing recipe, but that is another example of switching, slightly altering your traditional recipes, but giving an alternative which has 2 times the vegetables instead of 1. And then the last would be just a traditional vegetable platter. So you can add maybe some roasted sweet potatoes on there, or carrots or parsnips that chopped up, and you can add some hummus just as an alternative to maybe a chip or dip option, just so that you're getting your extra vitamins and minerals before you start off your feast. Next would be some examples of some tuber root vegetables. So first we're going to start off with a sweet potato carrot pie. I have not tried this recipe, but I am forcing my family to do that when I get home because that looks fantastic to me. But carrots and sweet potatoes have a natural sweetness that is often highlighted when put together, and you can add some extra spices in there to really heighten that sweetness element. So nutmeg, cinnamon, those sort of things. And again, this is another hidden recipe idea. So you can add some more antioxidants, some more beta carotene into your diet. Sorry. And then another example would be some baked sweet potato wedges. I know that a lot of families need to have at least one sweet potato dish on their menu for the holidays. So try some baked sweet potato wedges instead of maybe a casserole. That would be filled with sugar and usually is topped with marshmallows and all of the fun goodies. But these are even better because you can add some extra spices in there to really heighten it, and it also has that crispy element to it. So you're really getting everything in a healthier package, but still getting the same fruits that you know. Sorry, everyone. Next, we're going to be talking about gourds. Talking a lot, my throat's getting dry. Next, we're going to be talking about gourds. So pumpkins would be the main source of this. So pumpkins are really versatile. Oh my goodness. So pumpkins are really versatile in their flavor profile because they can be both a savory or a sweet option. They're extremely high in vitamin C and E, which help fight free radicals that would be located on the outside of cells, which can often be brought on by unhealthy habits, so smoking, drinking, poor diet, sun exposure, a lack of exercise, all those things. So this helps to fight those. So it's also very high in vitamin A. So 1 cup of cooked pumpkin equals 245% of your daily recommended dosage of vitamin A. So it also helps with proper immune function as well as helping off fight infections. So coming around cold and flu season, having extra vitamins and minerals never hurt anybody. Pumpkins are also very high in fiber, so there are 3 grams per cup. The recommended daily intake for women is I don't see anyone, so talking a lot is definitely a nice change up. So the recommended daily intake is 21 to 25 grams per day, and then for men it is 30 to 38 grams per day. So by including this, you're already at about 10% of your daily intake. So eating more is great. So fiber helps with proper digestion. So making sure things are flowing as they should be. Fiber is also great for helping lower cholesterol levels, as well as helps reduce the risk of heart-related issues. So include more pumpkin into your diet. And then some ways that you can do that would be pumpkin soup. So on a cold winter's night, a delicious cup of soup works wonders. You can pair it with a whole piece of whole wheat toast to dunk in there. You can also toast the pumpkin seeds, and these are also referred to as pepitas, and you can put that on salad or soups or trail mix, or you can just eat it alone. These are high in fiber and unsaturated fatty acids, which are good for helping heart function, add a nice texture to anything. And then lastly, a pumpkin oatmeal. So you can mix this in with traditional oatmeal to give it a little bit more flavor, and you can put some pumpkin pie spice in there to really give it that extra flavor. And you can put some pumpkin seeds on top for some extra nutrition. Given that this is very high in fiber, it'll keep you full for longer throughout the day, so adding some extra fiber in there would be great. Okay. Sorry, I have a delivery of water. Next, we're going to get into some non-starchy vegetables. So ultimately, eat more of these. Non-starchy vegetable would be including things like cabbage, asparagus, dark leafy greens, onions, mushrooms. These types of vegetables only have about 5 grams of carbohydrates and 25 calories per serving. And the CDC recommends per week that women eat about 1.5 cups per week, and then men 2 cups per week. And so green vegetables are packed with fiber, which we already talked about, vitamin K, which is very good for red blood cell production, vitamin C levels, and folate. Folate is very beneficial for DNA replication and synthesis. So if you have any damaged cells, folate is going to be really good for repairing things. So next, we're going to be talking about some of the things that are grown right now. So collard greens. I know probably everybody in the South is a fan of collard greens. I'm not from the South, so this was definitely kind of a culture shock for me, learning about all of this stuff. But a traditional Hoppin John recipe would have beans, collard greens, bacon. But an easy swap for that would be add some more collard greens, maybe swap from turkey bacon to regular bacon. Turkey bacon is lower in calories and saturated fat, so it is more heart healthy. And you can also, or if you don't want to do that, you can also look for a lower sodium bacon, which would ultimately help reduce that salt intake. Next would be rainbow chard. So by looking at these photos, they are extremely vibrant, so it adds an extra flavor and fun to any dish by including some of these reds, yellows, oranges, and these are actually very high in vitamin K, which we talked about earlier. These can easily be added to a holiday rotation, and you can add some nice flavors to it, so garlic, chili flakes, lemon, a very easy green to just throw into any dish to add some more vitamins and nutrients. Next, we're going to be talking about celery, which is also in season. So ants on a log are one of my favorite things from when I was a child. Very fun to make. They're a wonderful snack for kids, and I eat them quite regularly right now. You can add non-fat Greek yogurt on top of it for an extra bit of protein, and then you can add some fruits on top of that as well for some extra fiber. And then you can also add some more celery to your stuffing recipes to get some more fiber in there. They're a very versatile vegetable just because they are very low in flavor. Particularly, they also have a very high water content. So once you start cooking that kind of evaporates, gets rid of the bulk of it. They are high in insoluble fiber. So the difference between insoluble fiber and soluble fiber is that insoluble fiber is a little bit more difficult to digest, so it keeps that satiating factor. And you can tell by that high cellulose content, which is what makes it so rigid and stringy. It's just the makeup of how the cells interact with each other. Next, we're going to be talking about kale, which I know is such an underdog story. It was in the lining of buffets, and then it became the most popular food of the decade. So this can be a beautiful starter salad. You can get prepared for the feast that you're about to eat by eating a nice nutrient salad. I know a lot of people stay away from kale just because sometimes it can be a little bit tough if not prepared correctly. So if you try massaging it in olive oil first, it gets rid of that tough nature of it and helps to break up those tough fibers. So it releases that natural flavor and makes it a lot easier to eat. So you can add apples to it, some cranberries. You can make a nice fall style dressing. You can add pumpkin seeds on top of it as well for really nutrient dense salad. Next, we're going to be talking about fruits or desserts. So a lot of options that we've talked about today were suggestions to add more vegetables to your plates, but we're going to try to talk about some ways to eat our fruits as an alternative to dessert and make them more appealing on their own. So tangerines are in season. They're a part of the mandarin family, basically just a small orange. They're very high in vitamin C. An example of some baked goods that you can make would be these pumpkin tangerine muffins. So these are specific muffins made with rice flour for anyone that might have digestive issues, or you could even use a nut flour like a walnut or an almond for a low carb option for diabetics, so that they can have that same sweet treat without necessarily spiking their blood sugar levels as aggressively. Next, we're going to be talking about pears. So 2 recipes that I have included would be cinnamon baked pears or even an apple pear pie. So pears are extremely high in fiber. So there's about 6 grams per small pear, and they're packed with antioxidants that you leave the skin on. So the first example would be an oatmeal crumble topping. So doing this versus a traditional apple pie crumble or anything like that helps save calories by having this individual portion. And if you have 2 of those, it counts as 1 cup of fruit. And you can make your own whipped cream to go on top of it, or get a non-sugar added vanilla ice cream for a more diabetic friendly option. In my household, pears are an essential. Actually, before this, I talked to my mom about doing this presentation on pears, and my dad has been extremely disappointed because my mom always makes this beautiful pumpkin banana pear bread before every fall season. My dad tackled his professors in college over some pears. We take pears very seriously in this household, but this would be an alternative to a traditional apple pie just because it adds more variety in textures and also adds another serving of fruit that you typically wouldn't have in a traditional pie. Next, we're going to be talking about persimmons. So an example of a nice switch up to a traditional fall dish would be a caramel dipped persimmon instead of an apple. Persimmons are extremely high in vitamin B6 as well as fiber. If you look in a grocery store, they vaguely look like a tomato, but they are sweet and crisp and juicy at the same time, and just an essential to have as a snack. You could pair it with oatmeal or yogurt as just a change in diet. We're going to be talking about herbs next. So mint, thyme, sage, rosemary, and oregano are all in season right now. And while they're not necessarily a produce that people think of, these are easy ways to add in. These are herbs that are traditionally seen in a lot of holiday dishes, and adding more of these can help limit your salt intake by making sure that you have something that's flavorful. So it helps with anyone that might be hypertensive or have just regular high blood pressure. This is really beneficial by adding more herbs and then salt. So now we're going to be talking about more ways of being healthier this holiday season. So we're going to kind of switch our gears from being focused on vegetables and produce to just ways to be healthier overall. So hydration station, we're going to be talking about drinking water as an alternative to drinking alcohol. I know that 'tis the season when we're around our family that sometimes drinking water is not our favorite activity, but these are going to be some ways of how to make yourself engage in drinking more water by making it more flavorful instead of just traditional. So the Mayo Clinic recommends that women have about 11 and a half cups of fluid in general. Now that can be milk, water, juice, or anything. So it's not necessarily just water. And then for men, it's about 15 cups per day. So for some ways to include another seasonal fruit would be lemons. You can have them in infused water. So letting it sit overnight in your fridge just gets the water penetrating into the fruit, so it releases some of those natural antioxidants, so vitamin C, and it also releases some of that flavor. I know that water sometimes can be quite boring, so try adding some cucumber, some lemon, lime, or even mint to soak it overnight, and then you can have some freshly flavored water in the morning. Another example would be cranberries. Again, another seasonal produce option. So instead of a traditional cocktail, try doing a mocktail instead. Cranberries have been linked to proper urinary tract function. While this is not necessarily certain, drinking more liquids is going to benefit you in so many ways. And it can also help lower that excessive sodium that you might be eating throughout the day. So a way that you can make this is try using a sparkling water instead of a Sprite Zero for a more natural source of liquid instead of something that might have some artificial sugars. And you can serve this alongside of your meals to, again, help minimize alcohol intake. So some cooking tips. I know frying is an important part of anyone's Thanksgiving lineup. I know back home, I have never seen anyone fry a turkey, so this was a little bit of a shock to me as well. But frying is defined by cooking anything in a shallow pan of oil, or deep frying would be in a vat of oil. So try using any of these methods in order to limit the overall intake of fat and try to save up on calories. So roasting would be anything baked in the oven, grilling, smoking, steaming. These are all ways to help keep the nutrition inside of there because sometimes they leach out through certain cooking methods. So really trying to enhance the natural flavor versus just frying it up is really going to help you overall with trying to be healthier. Similarly, if you are going to use oil, try using olive oil instead of canola. Most vegetable oils, so olive oil, sunflower oil, avocado, walnut, those are all high in omega-3s. So they have natural anti-inflammatory effects. And then they also aid in HDL production, which is considered the healthy cholesterol. High HDL levels are associated with lower risk to cardiovascular diseases like atherosclerosis, which is just a plaque buildup in the arteries, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure due to arterial wall plaque buildup. And you really want to try to go for a more natural vegetable oil, so like olive oil instead of a canola oil, because canola oil is partially hydrogenated, so it is manufactured to be more shelf stable by adding an extra bond onto the actual makeup of the oil itself. And this would be technically considered a saturated fat or a trans fat, which is linked to poorer health outcomes. So really trying to gear yourself more towards plain vegetable oils will really be beneficial for the long run. And next, we're going to be talking about just kind of My Plate in general. So My Plate is the new recommendation for how to gear your plate instead of the food pyramid that I'm sure that we all grew up on. So essentially what this means is that your plate should be about half fruits and vegetables. So you should really aim for a variety within that half. If you want to make it a challenge for yourself, try to include 3 different non-starchy vegetables on your plate to make up that half. So non-starchy vegetables, like we talked about, broccoli, cabbage, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, to really add a variety of nutrients. And then on that 1/4 of your plate, it should be a starchy vegetable or a bread option. So it really should be one or the other. So a starchy vegetable, again, would be potatoes, corn, carrots, parsnips, anything like that. And then the other half or the other 1/4 will be a lean protein option. So for most people, that will be turkey, and really try to have a dairy option and another drink option as well on that. So what this all means in the grand scheme of things should be that balance is the most important part of any holiday aspect. So you should really be focusing on healthier items and load up on those. However, this has been a stressful year for everyone. No one is going to fault you for wanting to maybe have a sweet or maybe 2. But really try to be as mindful as possible about what you're eating and what you're putting on your plate, because that is just going to make you want to be the healthiest version that you can be. But again, focus on balance instead of not enjoying yourself and not enjoying the time that you're spending with your family and friends during Thanksgiving, holiday, or Christmas, Passover, anything like that. And okay, that is that.
All right, that was great, Alyssa. Does anybody have any questions for her?
I promise I don't bite.
thanks for opening up my eyes. I'm gonna go out and get a persimmon. I've seen them in the grocery store, so in the produce section. So where are the recipes? So I'm going to we'll have an attachment, probably a Word document with all the links just underneath the recording of this presentation that will be on our wellness website, which is wellness.ua.edu under the webinar wellness class archives. All right, well, I think that's it. If there are any other questions, and everybody have a safe holiday. And thank you, Alyssa, for your advice. This was a great presentation.
Thank you.